That is one big old fish to catch, and Miami got the job done. Welcome into the Voice of College Football. This is your weekly dose of Miami football here, of course. Check out the other videos, of course, throughout the week, but it's a Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. My name is Mark. We're joined by Cam Underwood from State of the U. This is the duo you see for 426 weeks. And, of course, we're speaking of one Jackson Cantwell, the number one player, the number one offensive tackle in all the nation, has made his decision, announced yesterday, to play at the U.
Yeah, man. So glad to be here. Sorry, I had the other YouTube video up, so I was hearing echo, and whatever. But anyways, here we are. And it's a great day to be here, man. So, Miami got the job done with Jackson Cantwell. Let me tilt that slightly. And, that's really, really great news, man. You go out there and beat everybody in America for Jackson Cantwell. It was, really a great job by Mario and Alex Mirabal, as we had noted all along the way. Oregon made that push and everything, but they really weren't in consideration. Ohio State made a push, but they really weren't in consideration. Georgia made that late push, and they were in consideration. They have Jared Curtis from Nashville, number one quarterback, committed. So he's trying to, be like, hey, quarterback, left tackle, boom, boom, or whatever. But in the end, Miami had been doing a better job for longer in the building the relationships and everything. And yes, appropriately and properly leveraging NIL. Like, this is the world that we live in. And, it's just sour grapes when, the Georgia people are leaking out there, Miami's offering 5X what we offer or whatever, which, I even saw there was a Georgia blogger who quoted that. He was just like, yeah, man, he wanted 5 times the number that we give to 5 stars in our program, and bullshit, straight like that. And Drew Rosenhaus is not going to only try to tax one program. You know what I mean? Like, it was equitable, from what I heard across the board. And Jackson Campbell himself said, every team who's recruited me offered me money, bro. And as they should, because this is the world that we live in. But, it was sour grapes from, other people, other teams and whatnot. But, in the end, this is a massive, massive get, 6'8"-ish, 325 left tackle, number one prospect at the position, and everything. I know 247 had their update of rankings come out today, and he dropped slightly in that. Having talked to Gabby Rudia and some other people that I know at 247, when Gabby put it out there on their message board on Monday and was like, hey, regardless of what happens on Tuesday, just so y'all know, because Andrew Ivins, the head of scouting, had filed his updated rankings already. So that email went out in their company. So that was going to happen regardless. I still want Jackson Cantwell on my team. I'm sure that Oregon is like, I don't know what the fuck they talk about, because we want him on our team too, or in Georgia or anybody else. But that was a little like 247 doesn't have the benefit of the doubt with me anymore. You know what I mean? Like, I remember going on a rant after they dropped Jaden Wayne the day that he committed to Miami. And then, like, over the course of time, like I said, knowing many a person who works at that company, like, yeah, there was one of the tech people was supposed to be sandboxing tweaks to the algorithm that were not connected in live, but they were connected in live, and as they were tweaking things, then boom. So so on 247, like you see up top, he dropped from 3, because he was 3 for them, to 10, from the number 1 to the number 3 offensive tackle, number 1 in the state of Missouri. On the composite, however, which takes into account all of the sites in the industry, still number 1 with a bullet across the board. So, which is what I've always looked at, and you know that like I do. But even if you want to say, oh, he's a top 10 player and top 3 offensive tackle, which don't necessarily agree with, but whatever. Even if you were to say that, that's still rare air. So, I mean, yeah, this is a huge, huge get. I'm not going to get caught up in the semantics of the, 247's proprietary rankings and everything. And I know Ivan's, and I remember when he just graduated from FAU and he was just starting out in this industry and everything. And I do think that he has a good eye for talent and everything. And we'll see where it ends up in the end. But again, looking at the composite, which I always have, number one with a bullet across the board. So this is an elite talent. I just saw a reel and I had to check. Jackson Cantwell is still 16 years old. Like today, like he's going to play. I believe he turned 17 for his senior season. Well, it plans to early enroll and will be a fresh, young 18 years old hitting the field for Miami in 2026. So yeah, man, like this is, I mean, when you add that level of youth to this, so he's not your Josh Jobe of the world, your old grandpa Ridley, who aged out at 19 years and 9 months, 3 weeks into their season, his senior year at Monarch, and then they had a bye week 4 to redo the offense. That was back when you could be 19 years old. Josh Jobe had to transfer to Connecticut to a prep school because the state rule in Florida changed from you can be 19, but you age out at 19 years and 9 months, like Grandpa Ridley, where now you cannot even be 19 your senior year and have eligibility in the state of Florida. None of that is a concern for Jackson Cantwell. Like he's going to, if he's 3 years in a first round draft pick, he's hitting the league at 20, turning 21. Like that's what we're looking at. And, all of that to say an elite talent, no matter how you slice it. I know Georgia people are mad. I would be mad too. I would be upset if he chose not to go to my school. But just to bring it and say it was money only is farcical. And because like on the flip side, you got the number one quarterback in America or one of the top in Jared Curtis. Y'all ain't have no NIL? Like that didn't cross anybody's mind. He just went there of his own free will, right? So it's only NIL when somebody goes somewhere else, but not when you get him away from Oregon, who's captain money back. You know what I mean? But whatever. That's my diatribe about it. In the end, the consistent, proven development of offensive linemen and the long-standing relationships with the coaches from the University of Miami led Jackson Cantwell to Coral Gables. Very super duper excited for him to join this class, and is a massive, massive, massive recruiting win as we continue to build this class.
All right, Cam, let me hit this from a few different angles and get your response. But first, we will let everyone know that we would like you to please hit the like button and subscribe right here at the Voice of College Football because you enjoy the show, you enjoy the content. So just go ahead and get that out of the way. Please hit the like and subscribe. And a warm welcome to start us out by Falconer TRX. Thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, man.
And thank you to everyone else in the chat. Leave those comments and questions. All right. First off, yeah, there's a lot of hypocrisy out there during these big, high-profile recruiting battles. It's just ridiculous. So Georgia misses out on this one for whatever the reason. Let's start there and go to what about all the recruiting battles that they win because they've got deeper pockets than, it's just hypocritical across the board.
Yeah.
Everybody points to the winner of that particular battle or the schools that can spend more money than they can. Lane Kiffin was complaining all over the place about money being spent elsewhere over the last couple of years. Well, if his school's spending in the top 15 in the nation, he's going to point obviously to the ones that are spending more than him, but not the 100 schools that he outspends. So yeah, I understand that your typical fan, me included, would like to believe that these players are making that selection based on relationships, football prowess, wanting to win championships, wanting to be developed as an NFL player, and then the money is just a tiebreaker or something of that nature. We will never exactly know what's running through any particular player's mind in regards to his checklist, but we know that Jackson Cantwell is going to be paid rather handsomely anywhere and especially
number one player in America,
schools
guys.
that were in the running at the end. So I would think that he made his decision based on other things, even though I heard the critics out there that said, well, Miami just outpaid everyone. And if they did,
be bad. You know what I mean? Like, again, if they hate, let them hate and watch the money pile up. And if they want to be pocket watching Jackson Cantwell's money, and it's funny because in terms of the, disparity or, the hypocrisy, if we don't get a recruit, we're broke boys and didn't step up and don't have any money. And everything was John Ruiz only. And we don't have a collective, which is among the leaders in the industry. And if we do, then we overpaid. Like, so which is it? We broke boys or we not? Like, and again, and that's just for the haters, because like whatever. I'm aware of what it is, but I mean, just from one day to the next, literally just flip flopping and it's just it's like whatever.
George has been spending more on recruiting, even before NIL, than anyone for a long, long time. Ohio State paid for some of the top players in the nation, won a national championship last year. Michigan just went out and got the number one quarterback in the nation and had to ante up for that. But we can go on and on and on. Texas, of course, is
Alabama
being
under
discussed about
Saban.
how much they're paying right now. Everyone is coming to the table with the big bucks.
If you want an elite player, like you were, again, go back on SB Nation from years gone by. Meet the Bag Man by Stephen Godfrey. It's one of the best pieces you'll ever read. And that was about the old, like I've told this story that I know to be true because I've seen the text messages of driving out in the middle of Nowheresville, ordering a cup of coffee with a $40,000 cash briefcase, dropping the briefcase because the waitress is the cousin's sister's friend of somebody. You know what I mean? All that Bagman stuff that's been going on. What are we talking about? You know what I mean? Like Charles Barkley today even said, I've given more money to Auburn University legally or illegally to get players over the course of time. Bro, this ain't new, but you're mad about it because, Miami is doing what your team couldn't get done, bro. It is what it is. Falcon and Miami loading up on recruits like bricks at a new price. Hey, man. Yeah, I'm in the middle of writing this month's recruiting breakdown, class breakdown, and there are more recruits to add to the boat. But when you get the biggest whale in the ocean of this recruiting class, that's a good place to be. And then you remember from obviously I think a couple months ago now, Ben Congdon. Remember that name? 6'8", 300-pound right tackle, not state champion, but state semifinalist in wrestling, I want to say. When that big old nasty run blocking dude on the right side. So now we got 6'7.5", basically 6'8", 325 in Jackson Cantwell, 6'8", 305, and he'll get heavier when he stops wrestling. Ben Congdon, right? And those are your bookend tackles already right now. Bam! What are we talking about?
Okay, I'm going to hit this from another angle that's not as positive.
Let's go.
There is little that can be taken from this that's negative. The guy might be the best player in America. All right. You would have a better grasp of how much is the going rate for a top 5 tackle, a top 5 quarterback, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, whether inexperience coming out of high school or in the transfer portal.
Those are, very, very different tiers of money, but yes.
Yes. So I heard $2 million. I heard as much as $2.5 million for Jackson Cantwell. I have no idea. And I don't know how that compares to what he was being offered by Georgia, Oregon on down the line.
It's not that from what I've heard, but that's not crazy for a player of that caliber at a top of the roster, supremely valuable position. A left, like if you just translate it on down from the NFL, right? And you just take that structure, right? And say, okay, what are the positions that are the most valuable? Those aren't just the most valuable at the top level. They're the most valuable all the way up and down. So if you trickle that down, yeah. So, it was a substantial amount of money, as it should have been, and everything. But, yeah. And hey, whatever. I'm not watching the man's pockets. And we have enough money. We got more than enough. And people are donating to the collective every single day. So, hey, you know, but like his share is going to be more than other players because like you're not going to excuse me, you're not going to give somebody further down the recruiting class, further down the roster, right, the same kind of a number. I.e. JJ Sparks, 3-star, borderline 4-star offensive tackle from Jacksonville Bulls that we talked about when he committed a while ago. He's not getting the Jackson Cantwell money. He's getting his money, but he's not getting that much. Go back to the previous one for me, the one with the list of names. Chi-Town Kane, appreciate that. Must get or keeps for the offensive line class. Jackson Cantwell, Kenny Pepe, Tommy Toffee, and Johnny Jones. Kenny Pepe is from California, has committed to USC. That was last week. Tommy Toffee also, I believe, from out there. He might be committed to USC, but he's somebody that I know was on the radar. And then Johnny Jones is from Florida, and I know he's Tampa Berkeley, I do believe, somebody that Miami is going after. So I don't know that we're going to get all of those just because, again, even in the same recruiting class, like when you have a Ben Congdon already, and you're like, cool, right tackle, set it and forget it. You're not playing 2 left tackles. Ain't 2 of those slots. It's one dude, set it, forget it. Caden Proctor, you know what I mean? Like that kind of a thing. You're not getting both Pepe and Cantwell in the same class. Like you're really not. Maybe if you have your elite recruiter all the way unlocked on your college football 25, fantasy coach or something, but like IRL, you're not getting both of those dudes. You're really not. Unless one of them is saying, cool, I volunteer as tribute and I will go play right tackle. But again, you got one of the best right tackle prospects in this class already. And I mean, I'm not saying that Ben Congdon is probably going to step in day one, but Jackson Cantwell, and Kenny Pepe, I expect to step in day one. So yeah, I hear you on that. I do not think that it is reasonable, like in real life, in practice, that you're going to get all of those dudes, or especially the top 2, 2 of the 5 stars. You might as well throw Manuel Iheanacho and Felix Ojo, the other 5-star tackles, in there as well, saying we need to get all of those. It isn't realistic. And that would be something where you would be breaking the bank because you're giving top of the line money in terms of your NIL, because like there's a budget there is a finite amount of that, right? Like we had enough, but because you got guys slotted in, you're not going to get Kenny Pepe. And again, IMG Academy guys, they usually go back home to where they're from. There's some who go, mercenary, look, I'm just going to college and whatever. And Pepe is one who's like, cool, yeah, I'm going, I'm taking it back to Cali. That's where I'm from. So yeah, those are some really great names. I would look at Johnny Jones more as like somebody else who's reasonable on that list. And then maybe Tommy Toffee, but Kenny Pepe, that ship has sailed.
Okay, you just made the statement, Cam, that money is finite. And so this is where I was headed along those lines.
Yeah.
From a negative standpoint, potential negative standpoint, is that it's one thing to spend top dollar for somebody and then just have all sorts of room to go in different directions to do the same thing at other positions and in the transfer portal. It's another thing to say, we really want this guy and we're going to put a lot of resources in this direction and we're going to have to cut some corners elsewhere. That may or may not pay out or pay off, but it's going to be a different equation than, okay, we're good to pay top dollar all over the place. So Jackson Cantwell, if he has reasonable development, I don't know that we can expect him to be a top left tackle as a freshman. But if he becomes a very good player as a sophomore and then becomes one of the best in the nation, if not the best as a junior, and then he's off to the NFL, then is the whatever million per year worth?
Yeah, again, it's not that. And like, why not? Like Francis Mauigoa came in and was, freshman all conference, borderline honorable mention, maybe pushing towards I think it was honorable mention all conference as a true freshman. Why not? Like, he's one of the best players in America. He's a top, he's number one across the board and everything. Like, Caden Proctor stepped right in, Like there are other like this. These are the kinds of players that we're talking about. We're not talking about like just a guy. Like we're talking about a dude, like a foundational player. Why not expect greatness to translate over? Why not expect him to come in and battle and then be like? That's not. I respectfully, I wholeheartedly disagree with like the underlying foundation of that thought and statement. Like there are freshmen who come in and play at every position on the field. And I believe that being one of the top, if not the top player in America, Jackson Cantwell is firmly in that conversation and will be on campus early and be given every single opportunity to go earn his way on the field. But this is a monster of a player at that position. I rebuke and I reject the thought that like, oh yeah, he's coming in to like sit and watch and da-da-da. Like, said the same thing with Francis. And I know that the team wasn't as good when Francis got here. They stepped in day one. And look, there's been dudes in Ann Arbor, Columbus, Austin, Texas, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Tuscaloosa, with Clemson. They always would have guys who would step in day one, and it wasn't like, oh, like that. I dispel that. That's faulty logic. I wholeheartedly disagree with even the precept of the question that you just asked me. That's asinine.
Okay. Well, it's not faulty logic.
I think it is. I think it is because but if you're coming at it from the point of because that conversation is if Jackson Cantwell is a developmental 3-star who will need time. Otherwise, I wholeheartedly disagree. No, I'm not.
No, that's not what I said. I was not making any kind of prediction or projection that he's not going to be a formidable player as a freshman. I didn't say that. I said if that happens and they've devoted all this resource in that direction, then it's obviously a bigger letdown than had their resources gone elsewhere or been divided among multiple players.
I mean,
that's where I'm coming from.
You could say that, but again, that's putting your mentality on it. And when interior to the program, they have their standard for what they're looking for and what they'll accept. So like if it lets down what you're looking for, then it could potentially, and again, that's also like faulty from the fact of like, okay, well, like you have to make choices and you have to go and get guys, but then you're not going to go back. It's revisionist history is what it is. Because if he doesn't play to whatever the idea in your mind is, well, we could have gotten da-da-da, but like,
sure,
I could have had a burger instead of Chinese food. You know what I mean? It's just like, at some point you have to make a choice. And like, yeah, I'm comfortable with the entire evaluative process, even if it doesn't go 100% the way that you want from day one. And who's someone on the roster who proves and supports that? Samson Okunlola, 5-star recruit, tore his knee up, was developing well as a freshman, really struggled last year as a redshirt freshman. Credit to him and Emory Williams, both for graduating in 2.5 years, being the first football players ever to do that from scratch. Great on them. But he has not gotten the return. Miami has not gotten the return on investment out of Samson Okunlola that was put in. Not throwing him out, not throwing out the baby with the bathwater, though. You're still riding with that guy. You still hope that he will develop and then give you something. But also, he didn't get everything that Francis got because Francis was viewed as a day one guy. And even, being a 5-star, Samson Okunlola has a high ceiling, but wasn't at that. He was more in the 20-something range. He wasn't in the 5 overall in the America range. But, yeah, I mean, you could say that about anything. If Cam Ward hadn't have done what he did, then we're sitting here and saying, well, why didn't we go after the kid who went to Ohio State more, right? Like we could always look back at anything, but like I disagree with I just disagree wholeheartedly.
Falconer TRX, appreciate you, says number one Miami story this week. Not Jackson Cantwell. I'll put that in parentheses. New turf at Greentree.
Come on, man. Another can that what is it at the Rose Bowl? That nice Bermuda grass. But they probably can't even grow that because it's too hot down here. But yeah, hey, you got to resod those fields, and they're doing that. So looking forward to them being able to get out there and do their work out there and make it happen.
You made a comment about possibly Georgia's pitch, that if they would have been able to get him, they could, put him together with a number one quarterback. So there's a comment in the chat going forward to 2027. Do you think that this has any, it certainly can't hurt going after top level players anywhere, but especially a quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a positive. Quarterbacks, dogs want to play with dogs. The best players want to play with the best players. And when you have a great offensive line, it makes your job easier as a running back, as a wide receiver. Well, I mean, some ways wide receiver, but quarterback, those who work behind directly with that offensive line. So, Miami is very pleased with Darion Coleman, who I do believe if he was 2 or 3 inches taller would be a top 20 player in the country. He can hoop for real. But yeah, moving forward, Miami is going to continue to push for the players that they need. And yeah, when you have a consistently great offensive line, you can go to a Cam Ward. You can go similarly, but differently, to a Carson Beck, who's a top 5 player, a top 5 quarterback coming back, and say, hey, these big dudes are going to make your life a lot easier. And these running backs, and things like that. So I don't think that there's a one-to-one direct correlation towards that. But when you continue, and again, I've been saying it for a long time, this is going to be a focal year on the offensive line as that Maui Noa and Okunlola class hits year 3, where they're draft eligible and beyond. And Miami could reasonably have all 5 offensive linemen who be drafted this year. So yeah, digging in and getting, having 4 really top level offensive linemen already committed and more is just going to help across the board. But yeah, as we continue, I think, to show that Miami's offense can operate with different quarterbacks at an elite level, not the same level, but at an elite level. When you have Cam Ward come in, number 1 overall offense in America, you have Carson Beck, and there was video finally leaked of him throwing publicly, which, as I don't know if I said it on here, but I had heard, he was throwing and working behind the scenes, even through the spring. They just didn't want him in public or to, push, things, early. But yeah, seeing him throw and saying, hey, if Miami is able to continue to operate at a high level, right, then yeah, that will show, okay, for whoever the subsequent quarterbacks are, that you can come here and be successful. And that is definitely something that will help.
So you brought up Carson Beck, and yeah, there was comments made by Mario Cristobal the other day concerning Carson Beck's health and that he's ahead of schedule. Now, of course, he's going to be positive about it, but typically in these situations, the head coach is reserved and conservative. If the player's on schedule or behind schedule, he's going to try to hide that. So obviously with him making an overt positive statement about Carson Beck's improvement physically, that should be a great sign.
Yeah, and this is not the first time that he's said that Carson Beck is ahead of schedule. He said it before spring practice. Now, obviously, spring practice was 2 months ago, so the manifestation of ahead of schedule is different today when you saw him throw a ball on social media versus then. But yeah, this has been consistent that he recovered, the surgery went really well. He's in a great spot. He's at a head of schedule, and this has been consistent. So, and I saw, Gator fans like George, try to, quote tweet it on Twitter and be like, well, that ball hung in the air and that's getting intercepted. It wasn't full, life on the line, throw where I'm putting every single thing behind. It was more of a, hey, looking at footwork, balance, refining the technique a little bit, and being accurate. You know what I mean? But still having him out there rocking the Grinch cleats, by the way, which I had to point out as a shoe aficionado, was a great thing. But yeah, he is ahead of schedule, has been ahead of schedule. This is not the first time that Mario Cristobal has said it. And yeah, I'm really excited about what that portends for Carson Beck through player-led workouts, the off-season or OTAs, whatever you want to call it. Basically, it's what they are. The OTAs through the rest of the summer and everything. But again, August and later, or July, the end of July into August and later, that's the focus. So not now, but 3 months from now. So I love that he's getting out there. I love that he's working on the strength in that elbow and that arm and everything. But I would rather see him throw at 50, 60%, like we saw today, than sit there and try to, just throw a watermelon seed through a wall, type of a thing now in the middle of May. But this has been consistent in his recovery, and I'm excited about what that means, as long as he continues to take care of himself moving forward.
Falconer TRX coming in with this one. Quarterback Beck, no need to be QB Ward or just only QB Dorsey.
I get you in terms of play style. He doesn't need to run around and try to, make magic happen. Just like stay within the offense, run the ball, hit throws, which sounds a lot about like what he did at Georgia. And look at the success that he had personally and they had collectively. It was not always perfect, and it's not going to be perfect. But I mean, again, even if you depress the interceptions by a third, right? That means you're going from 12 to 8, which is exactly what Cam Ward did in terms of turnovers, in terms of interceptions, right? But if you do that, think of what the advantages are of you not throwing the ball in these other places. But yeah, making, good reads and good throws. And this is a guy who has played a lot of college football. This is not, some alien or some kid fresh off a turnip truck who's never seen, an Alabama defense, LSU, Florida, like advanced elite teams, Texas on the field. You know what I mean? Like he's been there, done that, seen that. So yeah, I think it's reasonable to expect similar numbers. Now, how that goes holistically, we'll see. But obviously this is a step down from Cam Ward. We all know that he's not the same player. He's not going to be that. But I think that he's more physically gifted than a Ken Dorsey, but that play style of run the offense, get the ball to the playmakers, and not put on a Superman cape and try to, spin, twist, and then throw the ball 70 yards is more his style. Yes, I agree.
Anthony Manzano is asking about your evaluation of the tape on Jackson Cantwell versus other tackles, in particular Jake Long, Joe Thomas, Joe Alt.
Don't really know a lot about those guys other than they were singularly excellent. So, I mean, obviously offensive line is not my thing, it's not my area of expertise per se. I think that Jackson Cantwell, it has been a top player because he's incredible. He has great balance. He has great feet. He's the prototype at size, 6'7.5". Let's call it 6'8", 325, right? Like he has the size, he has the arm length. He dominates. I think he had 178 pancakes last season in 10 or 11 high school games, I want to say. So do the math, carry the one. You know what I mean? So I mean, you're coming up on 15 to 18 pancakes a game, right? Seems pretty decent, So he does a lot of things that you want your tackles to do. He mirrors very well in pass pro. Is just a big ornery person, so he buries guys in the run game. And yeah, he's way bigger and stronger than guys who he sees at his level, and he plays like it. So I think that's more towards Alt or Joe Thomas than a Jake Long, who was very good, but he was more in that finesse mold than just like a pure road grader. But that's kind of where I stand with it. But I mean, this kid is such an incredible athlete. I mean, he's multiple time defending shot put champion in the state of Missouri. Where's that tweet? Where do I see it? Shucks. It's too far down my timeline now. But yeah, I mean, just suffice it to say that he's incredible and he does pretty much everything that you want to have done. And whichever player that you want to compare him to on that list, I mean, that's rare air, across the board. But yeah.
Folks, possibly if you're, let's say, driving in the car, you can't get to YouTube, can't watch, you can always listen to us on your favorite audio platform, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio. etc. So keep that in mind. Falconer TRX. After Beck, Miami will go back to stacked QB room.
Well, I mean, we'll see. Obviously, the quarterback position is one where player movement is way more visible than other positions because you really usually only play one. But yeah, if we continue to recruit the way that we have been, I think that Miami can get there. And it will also be interesting to see if just kind of in the short term, I didn't put this in the class breakdown. I thought it. What I'm going to say it, I'm going to put it in there also. It'll be interesting to see if Miami circles back around a second quarterback in this class because, like, there's the very real possibility that, you know, Emory Williams and or Judd Anderson could leave after this year. Or, you know, next spring. So we'll see how that goes and, like, you know, backfilling already and saying, okay, cool, we're going to look towards a Luke Nickel with Darian Coleman and go forward from there, which kind of reminds me, not the same. And I know that there's a lot of comparisons that are going to be made when I say this, but I didn't say all of the stuff that y'all are going to say. But it's similar to Robert Marv and Ja'Cory Harris. You know what I mean? Of like not having an elder statesman in the room and then a redshirt freshman and a true freshman and all the other stuff. I know, like, one's a black guy and one's a white guy. And I'm just saying there's no older players. You know, that could potentially be the case. And then you're going to need to go and get a couple depth pieces, maybe one in the portal, maybe a second one in this recruiting class. It'll be interesting to see, like, how Miami feels about that and, like, how that manifests itself in this recruiting class.
Back to the offensive line, Falconer TRX coming back with reeling off 6'7" to 6'9" linemen like nothing.
Yeah. You know, we got plenty of them. You know, you got a couple on the roster right now, including Markel Bell, your starting left tackle. So, yeah, I mean, if we can continue to get those guys, that would be good in my personal estimation.
Back to quarterback. When is the last time Miami signed and developed a starting quarterback that fulfilled their potential and played at a top level? It's got to be Brad Kaya.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, he was the last one who, like, really developed. I think that they did wrong by my guy, Nkosi Perry. Malik Rozier got everything out of his potential in that one season and then some in 17. What can Brown do for you? Jakari Brown still cannot hit the broadside of a barn, which was the issue. Like, he has all of the physical tools in the world, but he just is inaccurate. You even saw that with UCF when he played. I forget which game it was. I think it was Cincinnati, and they had a stat. They were like, yeah, I mean, they basically schemed up one-on-ones like it was a recruiting camp, and he just kept missing them. And then this guy's open down the field, and it's not for lack of arm strength because he could throw the ball a country mile now. But, like, yeah, just so. You know, Emory, I don't know how much more there is to his level of talent. I think that his performance could be better because I just think that he's, like, just performed very poorly, but I don't know how much higher the ceiling is than what we saw from him 2 years ago. And so, yeah, we're going to have to see. But, you know, even with not, like, recruiting and developing from the ground up, you know, you get a De'Aaron King in here. He did really well. Tyler Van Dyke was on a good trajectory and then all of a sudden got the yips and, you know, tough. And yeah, we'll see where it goes from here. But yeah, like, the last success was, again, a young guy who was thrown into the fire because my guy Ryan Williams from Miramar tore up his knee in the spring scrimmage or in the last fall, in the fall, excuse me, tore up his knee in fall camp. Yeah, that would have to be Brad Kaya.
Folks, we can get your product, your service, your own personal brand in front of the target audience you want to reach right here at the Voice of College Football. So hit us up at sponsorships@VOCFB, whether that's you personally, your business, or somebody else that you know. You can reach out to anyone. Of course, we are targeted, meaning South Florida, or maybe a national brand. Again, product, service, personal brand, we can help you considerably here at the Voice of College Football. Get your brand out there. Sponsorships at vocfb.com. So fans don't typically stay satisfied and celebrate too long. Then they're looking for what's next.
Yeah.
So is there some semblance of a list as to who Miami could bring in next?
I mean, there are a lot of official visits on the books coming up, starting in a couple of weeks, at the end of May, going into June. So I'm not going to spoil everything that I'm writing. But I mean, if you follow that, but if you're looking at a couple top names, right, that Miami's chasing, not saying who's going to be next into the boat, but Derek Cooper, 5-star running back from Chaminade, in Hollywood here. That's a name to know. Calvin Russell from Miami Northwestern in this 247 rankings update went up to 5-star status on their internal rankings and everything. His mother is a Miami alum who is in the Sports Hall of Fame for her career as a basketball player. So obviously there's close ties there. Syracuse has been doing a great job recruiting him. I know it sounds crazy because I was brought it up several times, but they've been out recruiting him very, very strongly. So, obviously I think the Miami's got a fight on their hands if you want to keep Calvin Russell down south. Tristan Keys committed to LSU, the Hattiesburg, Mississippi wide receiver, but he's another guy that Miami has been chasing and is continuing to recruit. So, I mean, there's that. And then there's a ton of dudes on the defensive side of the ball because there are more commits on offense than defense presently. So you can look over there at several different names like Ashari Charles from Venice. And I just lost his name from St. Thomas Aquinas. There's a edge rusher and several other guys. So, I mean, there's plenty of fish still in the sea, in this recruiting class. And, at some point, Miami is going to have to make some choices because you're not going to be able to take everybody, especially at wide receiver. I just wrote that section of the piece, which will be up either outside chance tomorrow, likely Friday or Monday up on stateoftheu.com. But we don't have any receivers committed in this class currently. So talking about pretty much anybody on the landscape is reasonable. So I wrote about 3 or 4 guys and I'm like, other names to know. And I'm just pulling names. I'm like, bro, there are a lot of guys who are scheduled for official visits. A Jace Matthews, a Braden Robinson, a Van Spafford, who's committed to Georgia from Mission Viejo, California, and. So, there's plenty of names out there, but Miami is, doing their due diligence and on all kinds of different guys, and we'll see what happens when visits start happening.
George is taking on the chat. Basically, the chat is full of Florida versus Miami chatter.
Indeed. Davon Mayfield saying, did I watch Proctor? He sucks. Okay.
Mohammed, thank you so much for the contribution. Shout out to all the low IQ Gator fans. We love you. Yes. Mohammed has had a field day with George there in the chat. For sure. Well, if you've got anything else, if you found anything, I did not, but if you'd like to respond to anything.
I will. Give me 2 seconds.
All right, folks, we do appreciate you being here. Of course, keep in mind that the Amazon link's in the description section of all the videos, including this one. So when you shop on Amazon, please use the link that we provide. It does not change your shopping experience in any particular way. You shop on Amazon, you see when you click on the link that it instantaneously recognizes you and reverts to your account, keeps track of all your records and everything. And that is the one way you can financially contribute here at the Voice of College Football without spending a penny. So please use the Amazon link in the description section. And we also have...
Oh, Anthony Manzano also, he asked another one about Jake Long, Joe Alt, or Tyron Smith. So basically the same thing. And there's inside baseball, not going to get there, but if and when I get around to doing the recruit breakdown video, then we will talk all about that stuff. And Falconer TRX, shout out to the 2025 Centennial graduating class from the University of Miami.
All right. I know you hit on some stuff going on there at the U, at the state of the U. That would be anything else you want to highlight there?
Let's go look. Monday Musings, we got that up. The 2025 preseason ACC hype train from Justin DeTavio is up there. The state of the ACC NFL draft recap is up there. I wrote a piece about the 2026 NFL draft candidates from the University of Miami that I think might be interesting to y'all. And we're actually working on a couple of other things that are not going up yet. And if you missed DeTavio's series on talent acquisition, development, and deployment in the ACC, a great 3-part series, be sure that you go check that out. All of that and more.
While you're scouring the chat, I will make note that Muhammad has set a record for calling any one individual a dumbass a number of times in about the span of 15 minutes. So
that's like when I was student teaching, I had a mentor. She was a grad student, but she was doing a evaluation when I was student teaching at South Miami Senior High School, right down Miller Drive from the University of Miami, teaching high school choir. Actually, no, that might have been, I was teaching advanced placement music theory that period. And she stopped following my lesson plan and flipped it over and just did tick marks for every time I said or okay. And it was an astronomical, it was like 200. And so it was such a high number in a 45-minute class. I couldn't believe it, but it was one of those things where it gets stuck in your brain and it's your placeholder. So instead of just talking and going through things, it's okay, well, and then like, and okay, all right, cool, and things like that. And she just did those check marks, and it just reminded me of that. We were talking about Muhammad and his run of calling people, or the dumbassery in the comments. Juan Manuel has a thing. Cam, I have a hot take. Keelan Marion, who's gained 10 pounds. On video, it looks like 6'1", 203, taking a 15-yard pass distance, will be an impact receiver on the outside for Miami as a deep threat. That's what he was brought here to be. You know, like, he's an All-American return man, so he definitely has speed. But yeah, he was a guy who was brought in here to play on the outside, stretch defenses, and bring that element here, while the young receivers, you know, like, they get their sea legs about them and develop into these roles. But yeah, this is a guy who is known for being fast. Again, first team All-American as a kick returner. You don't get that by being slow. But yeah, being a valued member of the passing offense, that's why we brought him in, and I'm hopeful that he's able to do that.
I will note that few have contributed to this network as much as George has. So I'm in George's corner from that standpoint. So regardless, I will not jump into the debate that ensues. We do know that Miami was the much better football team when the two stepped on the field last year.
But
there's no debating there.
I tried to tell Buddy when you brought him on here, the best chance for them to be competitive was to run the ball and to play DJ Lagway, because we were going to get after that ass. And he looked at me like I was stupid and called me an idiot to my face. And
he called you an idiot?
And yeah, because murder Mertz and like that. You think Mertz is? Yeah, no, he's okay. Like, I mean, he just dismissed it out of hand. And, like, I don't. Yeah. It is, but hey, it is what it is.
Yeah, it was a beatdown, no doubt about that. But we'll get to see it play out once again.
And, I would enjoy seeing, I mean, I think that obviously all three should play each other annually. But that's my thought. I understand if, UF wants to feel and think differently. Cool. I am interested to see where Miami goes with an additional non-conference game. Not necessarily, connected to Florida, but, especially with, Clemson and Notre Dame linking their annual deal and things like that, and I know that there's some scatter, there's a couple with South Carolina coming up. There's, but I'm interested to see where Miami goes with another kind of marquee non-conference game as we move forward.
Miami Athletic Director Dan Radakovich had some words to say after the Clemson Notre Dame deal was announced. Of course, they're going to play 12 consecutive years, and I'm expecting Clemson's going to have to do something with some of these other games. They've got years lined up where they're going to play Notre Dame, Clemson, or Notre Dame, South Carolina, and Georgia or Oklahoma. So that's not going to stand.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it does. I don't know. Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. 4 non-conference. That would be the most difficult non-conference schedule in the history of college football.
That would be pretty challenging. Yeah, but I see people are mad at me that I am standing on the fact that I supported N'Kosi Perry. Oh boy. And look, I know the off the field stuff, man. I know that he enjoyed the carnal pleasure of the female partner of a team. I get it. I'm not excusing that. I'm not saying that. But even before any of that, I still think all the way through that 2018 season, go back and read the pieces on State of the U, go back on this here channel, go back to those. I'm saying, he needs to be the quarterback. You need to go to a spread offense. I wrote it. I said it on here 18 million times, right? And then we get down 27-7 against Florida State, and Mark Richt says, well, I got nothing else to do. And what does N'Kosi Perry do? Write a legend. Number 5, come on, with the clap cadence in there, with the seam shot to Jeff Thomas straight on the ball, and then over the top to Brevin Jordan for the winner. Come on, man. Like, nah. As a player, I believe they did him a disservice in his development with the yank in and out, which even, I said some other things that I regret saying the way that I said where I said them. But that's what I meant. Like, but in the end, was it probably time for him to go after you snake one of your teammates and enjoy the carnal pleasure of his female partner? And there's recorded evidence of that. Yeah, you probably had to go after that. But I mean, y'all get what I mean.
Back to the field, he definitely had a distinct throwing motion and could spin the ball. He threw a pretty pass.
Come on, man. You see it? But hey, it is what it is.
Norman, thank you so much for contributing. N'Kosi was undervalued by Manny Diaz. Perry proved he was better than King.
Whoa. Devalued by Manny Diaz, yes. That second part, the one right here, Perry proved that he was better than De'Aaron King?
He didn't prove it.
Nah, I'm not going to give you. I mean, like, if you were to take moments, right, like that Florida State game in a microcosm and be like, yeah, but then you're also ignoring the other parts of performance. So, I agree with half of your statement. The first sentence, N'Kosi was undervalued by Manny Diaz. Yes. But if he had proven that his performance was better than De'Aaron King wouldn't have come here, or he would have come here and then switched back to wide receiver like what he played his freshman year at Houston. You know what I mean? So I am in half agreement with you on that, my friend.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a NFL comparison. I can't come up with one of a guy who in moments showed to be high end, but never put it all together versus a guy that was really talented, could do exceptional things like a De'Aaron King, but also had limitations to where the first guy, maybe at his best, you could argue he could have been better had he maximized or in the right situation been better. But the the numbers show that D'Eriq
Right.
King was a much better collegiate quarterback.
Absolutely. If that Florida State game that N'Kosi Perry came into, but if you extrapolate that out across a full, because it was really only in the second half, right? But if you get across a whole game and a whole season, and like if you just take that and have that be always, absolutely. But that wasn't always, which was the issue.
And was it
Go.
him or was it Jaron Williams that threw for like 400 yards one time against like Virginia Tech? I'd have to look up that game.
Jaron, I believe. Yeah. Go up 3 in the chat for me to True Showstopper, because I want to get this one on the screen. 3 from where you
3.
Oh, I don't know if you were. Oh no, you weren't on that. It's further up.
Okay.
Players in respect to no,
is it above the super chat?
It's way up above another super chat. Don't worry about it. I'll just read it. Cam, what are your 5 premium positions for a good football team? I mean, it's less individual positions and like more groups. But if you go to groups, then it's like, almost the whole team. But if I were to say, like, offensive line, defensive line, 1 and 2. And then you need to have, players who can cover. I don't know how you want to manifest that, whether it's linebackers or safety or cornerbacks exclusively, but enough players who can cover and run your coverages, and then at least 2 and a possible players to make some plays on offense. And obviously, if you are able to have somebody really good at every position and whatnot, but I mean, if you had all of that, you're able to mitigate not having a superstar quarterback, right? You can get by with a game manager, right? And we've seen teams do that even at the college level. But I mean, for me, I would say everything starts big dudes close to the ball. That's always what I've believed. When I play my college football dynasty, that's where I start. Big dudes close to the ball. Gotta be able to own the lines of scrimmage on both sides, offense and defense. So you start there. So I would say big dudes close to the ball. Someone who can go score. Someone who can go get a quarterback, so edge rusher, linebacker, and some dudes who can cover. Like in a general kind of a thing, that's really where I would look at it. But I mean, if you're going into all 22 positions, if I were to have to do that, I would say off the board a little bit, center. And you don't necessarily need the most physical guy, but you need someone who knows what they're doing because they set all the protections. So, and needs to be physical enough. So I would say center, left tackle, because they got to protect your quarterback. You got to have those 2. An edge rusher is 3. And then I'm going offensive weapon at 4. Insert position, because that will, that'll color and flavor your offense, whether that's a Calvin Johnson or a Barry Sanders, taking my Lions into account, right? Somewhere like that. But pick your position. But offensive weapon, I would say, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4. And I mean, for me, I would probably say safety. I need that last line of defense because, like, I would like it to be a complementary player to the offensive weapon, right? So if you have a receiver as your star, I would like to have a cornerback. If you have a running back, I would love to have Luke Kuechly, be the linebacker and being able to do that. But in a general catch-all of like, I'm the umbrella, I'm the safety net of everything that goes in front of me. And there's many iterations of that. There can be a big dude like a Cam Chancellor. There can be a small dude like a Cam Kinchins. But I would say that. So like those, if I had to pick individual positions, that's what I would say.
Interesting. I won't push back at all on that. How about if your offensive weapon is Michael Vick playing quarterback or Lamar Jackson?
Oh, that's you're playing with house money right there. I mean, because it it changes the calculus too, because like you have the quarterback run, like we've seen it. Like you don't account for the quarterback in the run game. So your numbers, inside run drills and everything, all those things work because the quarterback is not part of the equation. But then the quarterback is part of the equation, and then that changes everything. When you have, corners and safeties who have to cover for 6 seconds and not 3. When you have guys who are gassed because they're chasing after the guy. When your edge rusher has to come off the field on a crucial third down because he is just winded because he did everything he could, and that guy dances out and around, and he can, and it might not be the first time, might not be the second time, but you go to the fourth quarter, and it's been all these times trying to chase this guy down. Yeah, that changes things. So, yeah, if you're able to have your offensive weapon be the quarterback, which is very infrequent. We have seen it, though. Johnny Manziel, Vince Young, who was one of the only perfectly rated recruits coming out of high school, was number one across the board, all the way 1.000. It wasn't no 0.9, nothing on his, but it didn't work out in the NFL. But in college and at the high school level, buddy. Yeah. So if you're able to get one of those, and I know it's not the same manifestation. That's what Miami had last year with Cam Ward. He was the weapon. He was the game changer. And yeah, it's changing that, going to Carson Beck. But yeah, if you're able to have that, then you're in a good spot.
Our buddy Valdez has this comment to make. Miami does not have first-round skill players because their coaches are too indifferent about who gets the ball.
Somebody needs to step up and prove that they need to get the ball in, to be perfectly honest. I think that's more incumbent upon the players than it is upon the coaches. And yet you want to have a diverse group, and everybody is not going to be able to play to the standard to have the Randy ratio. Y'all remember the Randy ratio? Mike Tice, when he coached the Minnesota Vikings? He said 2 out of every 5 times we throw the ball, it's going to 84. That's our Randy ratio. We call plays that are live for everybody else, but he knows. Throw that man the ball. At least 2 out of every 5 times that we throw it. Complete or incomplete. Throw the goddamn ball over there, right? But that's Randy Moss. Even playing with Hall of Famer Chris Carter and Jake Reed and on that offense, right? But he had the singular talent to necessitate that. And it wasn't just the talent, it was the performance. Y'all remember in college when they went to Army and then he hurdled the dude, which technically was not allowed at the time and should have been a 15-yard penalty because you were not allowed to jump over people back then. True story, go look it up. But we all remembered that, right? But he earned it by doing crazy Superman stuff. Yo, give me the ball all the time. Miami doesn't have players of that caliber, right? But when they did, and honestly, but when the caliber of the player far exceeded those around him, you had Charleston Rambo set records. And has he played it down in the NFL? Nope. Was he far and away the best receiver on that team? Yup. And what did he do in that season? I'm going to go scroll down and look. That was...
I'm going to guess 96 catches.
I think it was fewer than that. But...
It was a lot.
It was 79 for 1172 and 7. And then Mike Harley had 57, and freshman Strepo had 24, and Keyshawn Smith, my dude, had 33. And Will Mallory had 30, and Jalen Knighton out of the backfield had 20. But he was far and away the best dude on that team. And, he caught 79 and got targeted way more than that. But he was the guy. And his play on the field necessitated and dictated, give me the damn ball, right? We don't have players like that, or we haven't had players who proved that. And, the one who did was Strepo, and he's just not the greatest athlete in the world. But, it's not necessarily being indifferent because, you need the job to get done. I don't care who does the job. So, there is the indifference. But I'm not going to force the ball, necessarily, to someone who hasn't proven that they have the ability. Now, if you get this is why it's so crucial that when you get an opportunity, you make something of that opportunity. Because when you are successful, now you're telling me I can trust you more. Now I'm seeing and I'm going to go over there more. But there is a level of indifference because it's not about who does the job. It's about the job getting done. But it's not for Miami lacking the talent or not having first-round skill guys. I mean, we've had first-round skill guys. They just play tight end. You know what I mean? But, it's just this preponderance of first-round skill guys and everything. No, we haven't had all of that. But also, in large part, we haven't had the talent. This is why I've been on here screaming about these receivers going to these other schools for the better part of 15, 20 years. Because we don't have, except for Ahman Richards, and he had to medically retire. That was the last, that guy who broke Michael Irvin's freshman receiving record, that was your first round skill guy. That was the one who was going on that kind of a track. We have had very seldom had players of that caliber. And could we have wanted more from a Ray Joseph that we flipped from Clemson and got him to stay home and he was everybody's All-American coming out of Miami Edison? Yeah. But he was blocked by Restrepo. And are you going to tell me that you're taking Restrepo off the field? The performance and production of Restrepo, good, bad, or otherwise, right? To say we're going to put this kid who hasn't proven anything out here from a guy who ended up as the all-time career leading receiver? I disagree with you. With all due respect, Cam, what did Rhett Lashley do with the running back that Miami used sparingly? Well, we didn't play him at running back. And he didn't get drafted in the first round either. Brashard Smith, that being. So he used a different scheme than we use and used different personnel because SMU is not Miami's size. SMU is not running the same power kind of game that Miami is running. He went somewhere and played a style that fit his abilities, and he did really, really well, which is awesome. And I wanted Brashard Smith to get more not more carries, but more touches because we were playing a slot receiver and returner. And he went out there, and maybe you think about it because he gets one inside handoff on zone and he creases it. Yeah, but he's not a first round talent. He did very well. Absolutely. I'm not going to take anything away from him. But there's just levels to it. And again, you got to make choices. We wanted to run Mark Fletcher. Mark Fletcher has a different physicality than Brashard Smith. They're different styles of runners. Jordan Lyle, similarly fast, but he's way stockier. You know, it's just sometimes you got to do that. And I'm not, again, and Valdez, I appreciate the support and the questions and everything. So I'm not trying to bag on you. I just see things slightly differently. Elijah Royal would have been a first round guy. He was top 50. He would have been a first round guy, excuse me, if he hadn't have been injured 3 times, or 4 times in his first 3 years. He went 50th overall. 18 pick, middle of the second round, that's not far off. And a lot of the time in the process, people were talking about, hey, Arroyo at 31 to the Chefs. That was very much in the realm of possibility. He would have been a first round guy if Shannon Dawson would have drew up more plays for him. Shannon Dawson admitted the fact. Yeah, he could have elevated his stats and been a first rounder, and picked in the first round, but he's still that kind of a talent. Went top 50 in the NFL draft. And the other thing about that is this is the all-star game argument that we always have. Somebody got snubbed or somebody should be there. Who are you sending home to have a 5-day break with their wife then who does not deserve to be there? And in this case, it's what plays that went to other people are you dictating and directing, like the Randy ratio I talked about a couple minutes ago? Are you dictating throw the ball to number 8 instead? When you have the all-time career leading receiver out there, right? You got Sam Brown, who didn't do too much, but he was explosive. You had Jacoby George, who had all kinds of unsportsmanlike penalties, but he was out there hooping. And don't let me mention the running game which was incredible. So now, which plays are you comfortable with taking away, not for firm production from Arroyo, for throws in his direction, come hell or high water? Complete, incomplete, intercepted, fumbled later, whatever the result is, you're taking these plays from others to throw the ball for potential to Arroyo, which is great. But again, this is I don't got hair no more. Like y'all see the dome, it's shining up here. We are slicing hairs the thin way about the number one offense and a guy who got drafted at 50 overall, looking to elevate how much further. Again, considering it had 4 injuries in 3 years coming into this year, he wasn't going to go much higher than he did. Could you make the argument that he should have gone above Mason Taylor? Absolutely. But I mean, Colston Loveland is probably always going to go above him. Tyler Warren, probably always going to go above him in the first round. But like, he's still an elite talent. So I mean, it's just, I hear you. I just don't agree necessarily. And I just really think it's like we're really getting back into Cox Science Center at the University of Miami, where I took chemistry, and we're in that lab under the microscope looking at the little particles. Like, that's what we're doing to separate like Elijah Arroyo from first round talent because he got drafted at 50, you know. But like, yeah, I do agree with you that now if I were to spin what you said and said there's not been first round talent, which is a recruiting issue of all these guys going elsewhere, I would be much more attuned to agreeing with you than looking at the players who played here and then blaming them for not turning into something that physically most of them never had the capability of being, with the exception of like an Amon Richards, really.
For those of you who have just joined us for the last 10 or 15 minutes or whatever the time frame, you can always rewind it all the way to the start, catch what you missed. And you can hear Cam calling one of my opinions asinine. I don't know that that's ever happened before.
First time for everything. So, hey, today was that day. But yeah, Lord. Oh, I'm way far behind on the chat now. But at this point, I believe we are over our time. But
absolutely.
But I definitely agree, or definitely appreciate you all for being here. I appreciate all of the comments and questions. You know, somewhere else you can leave comments and questions, stateoftheu.com, where we are always open 24/7, 365 with the leading Miami Hurricanes commentary and analysis. Got plenty up there for you. I walked through some of it before. I'm not going to do it again. You know the link, you know it. And if you don't know it, you should. And if you do know it, then you love it. Stateoftheu.com. Please come on over and fan with us. Thank you for your time. I'll see you guys next week.